Lately, I've been feeling like Hollywood's been lacking in big action movies these days. Sure, you'll have films like the John Wick series, Nobody, most superhero movies, and whatever the hell Red Notice was.
You stole William Strang's Lady with the Red Hat from the tape.
You can't prove that was me. I got that on Etsy.
Ha
But I feel like the big Hollywood action movie has been a genre that's been dying out lately. Films that would star a huge cast with a simple premise and balls to the wall action just aren't done that much these days, and that's why I'm so happy Bullet Train exists. Bullet Train comes to us from the director of some really good action movies like Atomic Blonde and Deadpool 2, and stars America's sweetheart Brad Pitt as an assassin who's trying to collect a case from a train filled with other assassins that want the same case as him. This is the kind of action film that I love, when you have a premise that's easy to grasp, that doesn't try to overcomplicate itself, and allows for the charming characters in action to drive the film forward. My god, do you have a hell of a fun time. A lot of action films these days try to overcomplicate themselves by being much bigger than they need to be. Take Red Notice and The Gray Man, for example. Both are big budget action films with relatively simple premises that quickly become overcomplicated for no reason. Films like these believe that they're smarter than they are, and that by having more characters and plot lines than necessary, they're telling a bigger and more epic story, when in reality they're just an unnecessary complicated mess. Bullet Train is one of those action films that, while it does have a big cast, knows to not overcomplicate itself and allow the simple story to unfold as it's presented to us. But, with a cast as large as this, often many can get thrown to the sideline or have personalities indistinguishable from one another, and thankfully that's not the case here. Every character here I found to not only be charming and entertaining, but surprisingly fleshed out, both in backstory and in personality. These actors are all clearly having a ball, and it's honestly infectious and makes the film that much more fun. And this probably leads to my favorite aspect of the film, Brad Pitt's character. When you hear Brad Pitt starring in an action movie, you probably think that he'd be playing the typical tough, no-nonsense hero role, and here, they surprisingly go in the opposite direction. Pitt's character is trying to live a peaceful and zen lifestyle, so much so that he's going to therapy, and whenever he gets into a fight, he tries to de-escalate the situation and try to therapize his attackers. Not only that, but his character having just about the worst luck possible throughout the entire film led to some amazing moments. This is genuinely hilarious and fresh to see in an action movie, and makes this feel that much more distinct. Most action films these days either have the wisecracking fun-time hero or the stone-cold traumatized badass who doesn't crack wise, and while these are fine and have been done really well in the past, it's just becoming too much these days. Having your main action hero stand apart from the crowd is what ultimately helps make your action films stand out. If your hero feels like everyone that came before, then what's even the point? But, of course, every action film isn't complete without the action. So, how is it here?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
While I don't think this is the best action David Leitch has done, it's still an incredibly fun time. Having the actors do a lot of the action themselves and having stable camera work and well-paced editing makes the action in this feel so refreshing and that much more fun to watch. Having a director that's worked with stunts in the past and seeing that passion come through as a director makes me want to see stunt people make more action movies themselves. I guess if there's any complaints I have is that there are times when the pacing can feel a bit off. Sometimes the film will be going a mile a minute and then it'll slow down, but not in a really natural way. I don't know if this was because of how the film was structured, but it definitely could feel off at times. That's not to say it makes the story or film worse, but it is noticeable. That being said, the way this film sets things up and pays them off was a lot of fun. Often you'll have a film mention or show one thing and that'll show up in the end, but throughout the entire film there are so many things that get set up and they all have a pretty satisfying payoff as the film goes on. If anything, I'd say be patient with the film and don't get frustrated when they introduce something and you don't know why. The film will explain in due time. Overall, Bullet Train was a hell of a fun time and one of my favorite action movies to come out in a while. The characters are so much fun, the action is great, and the setup and payoffs were a blast to see. If you haven't seen this one yet, check it out as soon as you can. I'm going to give Bullet Train an 8 out of 10.